My name is John Willis, and I'm really enjoying meeting all of you. I'm learning so much. I've done a lot of things. I've written like 12 books. I've done 12 startups. My latest book was a book about Deming called Deming's Journey to Knowledge, and that's how I got connected with this group. Dennis Surgeon reached out to me. I was actually going on and on about Ron Nolan on LinkedIn, that I wish I could have met him and all this stuff. There's all these people I wanted to meet, researchers, but they're all gone. And it was like, and so and he reached out. He was like, "Oh, let me tell you about Ron," and he introduced me to Bill, and this has been great. So I'm in IT, mostly software. I've got 2 newsletters, and that's sort of nexus to everything that I do. One is called Profound, and I'm writing a book about the history of AI right now. So don't ask me about AI. You just can't shut me up. Ariana will know. She's running away from me. I'm talking too much about it. So yeah, this is Katie Anderson. If you haven't met, she's just a gem of a person. She wrote a book called Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn, and it's just a fabulous book. Her husband got relocated to Japan, and she knew John Shook, and she basically asked John Shook, "Is there anybody I should meet when I'm in Japan?" And just so happened, John Shook said, "Yeah, the guy I worked with was the Toyota side of the NUMMI project. This guy, Asio Yoshino." So she figured, all right, I'll just meet him. It turns out he had 4 decades at Toyota, hired him in 1963, worked with Ono, worked with Shingo, and she wrote a story about his career. 2 successes and 1 failure. You never hear a Toyota failure. He tells a story of a massive failure that he was involved in with Toyota. Again, that's the counterintuitive things. We keep hearing Toyota's great, they were great. So anyway, she runs a study group every year. She runs 2 a year. And it's a little pricey, but it is for what we do and how we study these things and the way we think about it. I can tell you there's 4 or 5 times that I goosebumps in some of the stories. I think some of you have that too. The thing that it's almost like she choreographed this thing was we went to a lot of tier 2 and tier 1 Toyota suppliers, and we went to a couple other places. And you would think that, okay, like I know it wasn't like this, but it's almost like they got the CEOs and the plant managers and said, "Hey, I want you to talk about it." No, it was consistent community collaboration, visualization, and trust everywhere you went. And it was almost like it was staged, but it wasn't. And you'll see that in part of this. So day 1, I gave a summary. It was like no platitudes. So you heard over and over from plant managers this idea of make good products and be a useful company. Be useful to the community. You just heard this over and over. And so it was this realness that, like, we hear it once, but you hear it every time. And so one of the things that she does in the beginning of the study group is she asks the question. This is based on John Shook did a study group, and there's a blog article about this where he asks you, where do you think what most influence lean thinking? And they ask everybody to put their blue dot somewhere on here. And so the idea is that, do you think it's universal to humans? Do you think it's Japanese culture? Or do you think it's Toyota? So, since we're not going to rub blue dots on the wall, think about where you put yours right now, and after this presentation, what do you think? Because most people who do the exercise change their dot location at the end of the presentation. So this is day 1. So this is Isao Yoshino, right? So again, he hired in 1963. Like, was worked alongside Ono, and he talks about, Hoshin Kanri. Oh, you can't see the slide, but Hoshin Kanri, Hoshin Kanri. It was one of his big successful projects. They did a re-engineering of all Toyota for Hoshin Kanri, right? That was one of his success stories. And then he talks about, and then he tells them, this is a hidden book, and this is a gem of a book. So, Mr. Yoshino says that Masao Emoto, has anybody heard of Masao Emoto? No, nobody else, right? He said that he was as important as Toyoshino, and in some ways more important. And so I bought the book, and it'll blow your mind. It is the other side of everything we talk about TPS. It's the human side. Ono is about flow, waste. This is all the stuff about humans, how you think about it. It's an incredible. He's got these 10 rules. And then he goes on about Deming's influence. So there's a lot of lean people out like MIT. When I was writing my book, would say, "Oh, Deming got nothing to do with Toyota." Just baloney, right? But I mean, there's a fair amount of people in the elite community that sort of just completely discount Deming's influence. I asked him point blank. He said in 1963, Deming was one of the most important people that we were. He had already left Toyota, and Masako Minoru was the guy who engineered the first Deming cars that Toyota won. Right. So he said two things. He said the two most important things that Deming did to Toyota. One is he taught us how to understand data. Right? He analyzed data and system thinking. Those are the two things that he said point blank. When he came in as a junior president, everybody said, yes, we got that. And then we went to different plants. So, and again, you heard this over and over. See the guy on the far left? You can't, the pictures are really dull. He's the CEO. He wore the same jacket that every one of the workers wore. So uncharacteristic of a Western culture company, right? And he used that phrase, like, we want to create a useful company. I'm like, okay, jot that down, let's see. And then the visualization, everywhere you went. And they were so creative about it. Like it was boards. If you ever seen, I don't know if you've ever been to a Toyota plant, the Kanban boards. Anywhere in the floor plan, you can tell exactly what's going on with all the lines. It's maniacal in all these plants. They make sure that everywhere, and they don't just use charts. They use sounds, they use music, they use safety. They play, when somebody's moving these big sheets, they'll do like a safety sound, like a melody. And it's just, you get to see how different they think about the problem solving and including. And this is this quote, we pursue to manufacture good products and we try to be a useful company. Day 2, Jidoka, Kazan, and Smed. So if you ever get to Tokyo, you definitely have to go to the Toyota Contemporary Museum. That's the original Toyota building, right there on the left. And that's the actual original Jidoka, where the needle broke. So they celebrate not the first successful. They celebrate the one that broke. That's the one that's in their lobby. It's the one that didn't work. And then that's the Toyota Pet. I don't know if you ever heard the story. You were telling me the story. The Toyota Pet is like amazing. Steven Spear, who wrote High Velocity, says that the car was so bad. It was Toyota's first entree into America. It was so bad, he said that if you wanted to go uphill, you were better off driving backwards. They literally it was actually around here somewhere in California where they opened the first, they tried to sell it. They pulled it. To Toyota's credit, they pulled it and they came back, 5 years later with the Corolla, right? But, it was so bad that, if you went to one of those drive-in hamburger places, if you put the tray on it, the horn beeped. Right? It was like a total disaster. Anyway, they had the Toyota Pet there. And then you're going to get goosebumps. We went to an elementary school. And I will say that all this work we do as consultants, we don't stand a chance. And here's why. Literally, first off, the students, and I've been told every elementary school in Japan is like this. This has to be a private school, but apparently they didn't know. The students serve lunch to everybody. So they rotate 3 students. It's just adorable. They wear smocks and suits. And that's a standard work chart. They literally do a standard work chart for the layout. They serve the food to the teachers, the administrators, and all those students. And they each rotate. It's community service. At about 2 o'clock, a little bell goes off, and they have no janitors in any elementary school in Japan. They clean the school. They clean the bathrooms. You don't have parents complaining, my son didn't clean the bathroom. They just, and then we talked to them, we got the interview them. They understood Kaizen. So we're trying to square peg around hole. By our time we're talking about Kaizen here, we're already out of college. They understand it in 4th and 5th grade. They don't have grades. Does this remind you of anybody we know? And then we went to another tier 1 supplier. They did the sheets for the molding of the cars. And this was the single minute exchange die. Supposedly it's one of the more advanced ones in the world, but I don't know manufacturer, I'm a software person. But it was amazing to watch. It was robots that literally, as the metal sheets were coming down, they would just change the dies and just change the shape of the metal as we watch it. But here again, and there's a video out there, and it's mind-boggling to watch this. 60 seconds, it completely changes the whole die, and it doesn't even change the metal; it's just flying down. And then here's another goosebump one. This one, this should be a real goosebump. So we went to this place called Inna Foods. And the CEO is 90 years old. And he wrote this book called Tree Ring Management. And what he says is, a corporation is like the rings on a tree. Some years they're thin, some years they're round, some years they're wobbly. And his whole book is just another amazing book in the scope of the way we think about problems. And so one of the things they have on the wall is a 100-year calendar. So they think about the company as 100 years. But what gave me goosebumps is when he told us, and it's in the book as well, they hire from the community. When he sits down at every new hire, whatever it is, and says, they look at the calendar, and he says, one of those days will be the best day of your life. And then he says, let's have a great life together. And then this is another thing. In their book, he talks about serendipity. How you know the 3M story, right? Like they live by this serendipity. They try to cultivate serendipity. Imagine as a corporation, like the sort of non-determinism of the concept of serendipity, right? And then it was on the wall in the R&D lab in English. Again, maniacal. Everywhere you went, you saw visualization. There was no place you could go anywhere and know exactly what was going on in every stage of the factory. Fourth day. This was interesting. So this is Naruko Okoye. She's extremely rare to have a CEO of Tier 1 plant in Tokyo. She was amazing. So we got to meet her and talk to her. And we're in her office, and there's a coffee-stained book of Eli Gorat's Goal on her desk. And it wasn't staged. I'm like, oh my God! My friend wrote a modern day rewrite of that book, and that's what inspired me to write my book about that. But this is when we went to dinner that night. None of us on the tour knew that she was doing this. She basically, during that day, she asked us all questions. And just think about the way she was thinking about her guests. And then at dinner, while we're eating this fancy dinner, I didn't even know she was at the corner. In fact, I didn't even know she was at the dinner. She's writing us little notes to each one of us. And so when we get on the bus back, we get handed all these unique notes like, John, it was great to meet you. I'm so happy mine was like, I'm happy that we can collaborate on the goal. Like that, and then it was like 40 of us. No, about 25 of us, right? And then here's another thing they do. They celebrate their inventions. They have a museum called Back to the Future. And so there's this celebration of community, trust, visualization. And each team has, this is sort of their Kaizen, improvement, suggestion board. They all theme their suggestion board. So like one was Japanese folklore. You can see the one took like a lot of liberties with different types of coffees. The one was really awesome. The one on the left was a steering wheel. And depending on how many suggestions you got or compliments, it fell down and caught a fish on the little guy who was fishing on the top. Like it just makes everything fun. Even like when you put tools. They would literally have these sort of fun ways to remind you that you should put your tools in the right place. It wasn't like yelling at you, beware, always put your tools in the left corner. It was like a fun thing. And then we did, this is the part I wasn't great. I did like the soccer movie, but anybody know what an onsen is? Yeah, okay. Maybe you know why I wasn't like overweight and all, not real happy about it, but I did. All right, day 5. All right, this is the last goose moment. Okay? It's called, you know that go together, right? The whole concept of go together, but this is like the ultimate go together. So it's called anybody heard of the 7-minute miracle? All right, so this guy, I just forget his name, but it's, I got it there somewhere, but Yavi is his name, right? He worked for J.R. East, and he was sent in to fix the Tessie, Jenkins, and cleaning company. These are the people that clean the trains when they come in. And so the first thing he told everybody, which is, hey, you're not cleaners. These are people that clean the train. They come to Tokyo State. They got a very short time. What is JR East doing the bullet train finish? Time. And right, so he convinced every one of them that, hey, you're not a clean person. You're a part of a worldwide recognized engineering miracle. You were part of that system. And so he changed everything, and he called it the 7-minute miracle. That's what it basically was. 3 minutes to deep work training, 2 minutes to get on, and 7 minutes to clean. And we got to watch this. It's amazing, these videos. They literally come, and they call Shenton Theater. And when so many things changed because of this. One was that instead of passengers going, when am I going to get on a plane? They'd watch it. They'd clap when they were done. Passengers would clap. The cleaners, as a train leader, would bow to the conductors. Right? They just turned it into, he completely turned the whole thing. And a friend of mine tells this great story. He says, the 3 stone cutters, right? And they asked the 3 stone cutters, what do you do? And the first person says, I cut stone. They asked the second person, what do you do? He says, I build columns. They asked the third person, they said, build cathedrals. Right? So, that's what he did. He taught them to, and one of my favorite stories is there's an interview with a woman, she's elderly, and she says, and she got on CNN, he interviewed her on CNN about the 7 minutes. There's a whole bunch, CNN did it, MSNBC, they all did specials on this 7 minutes. And she said, I was always embarrassed to tell my grandkids what I did for a living. But then one of the greatest days of my life was when my grandson came to me and said, Grandma, I saw you on CNN. And so anyway, this is where I put my money down when I was done. And one thing Katie does, she's an amazing person. I definitely buy my book, but I would definitely buy her book. She gives you a Daruma, and Yoshino signs it for you. So and everybody signs it. Darumas have a whole special place in their culture. So anyway, thank you so much for hearing me out. I thought it'd be fun for people to experience what I experienced there.